All right, we're good. So welcome again. It's so nice to have you guys here. Before I kickstart, once again, my name is Damilola Emmanuel. I've been a product designer and a no-code developer for over 5 years. And I'm stoked to be here today discussing with you about this because I'm always excited when it's time to talk about design. It's something I really love doing. It's something I really enjoy doing. And I hope I can help you get to a point where you also enjoy it and you love doing it as much as I do. Right. Now, I'm not going to stand there and tell you that there are no ups and downs. There definitely are. There are times where I've been frustrated and I'm like, do I really want to continue this? And there are times where I've been like, yes, this is it for me. So for every single one of us, we're going to have to define what that means for us personally, right? But today it's just going to be all about building up on the content of the initial video that has been shared and just talking through it really. So I'm going to do a short recap of what was talked about initially in the video that we had shared, and we would take it from there. Are you guys really struggling to hear me? I'm seeing some complaints in the chat and I want to be sure everybody can hear me before I move on.
I can hear
Like if
you.
you can just drop in the chat, letting me know that you can hear me, that would be great. Okay, some people are struggling, while some can hear me clearly. All right, if you're struggling, might I suggest that you disconnect your audio and then you reconnect? Because I'm using a mic, so I should be very audible. I should be very audible. Okay, so I'm just gonna continue really quickly. Basically, we are in your first week of your training. Adekunle, I'm not sure I can shout louder than this. Sorry. I'm not sure I can shout louder than this, but you can always listen to this recording afterwards. So I'm not sure you have any reason to worry. All right. So moving on, we talked about intro to design in the video that was shared, right? I'm just going to talk about this summary really quickly. So a lot of times when people think about design, when people talk about design rather, they think, oh, it's all about creating fine things, moving things together, doing stuff, doing this, doing that, moving pixels, making things look really great. But the thing is, design is more than that. Like I had mentioned in that video, right? Design is engineering, right? Design is architecture. You're building things. You're creating structures that other things can stand upon, right? Without a good foundation, a house cannot be built. It's the same thing when it comes to design. If the foundation is rough, then the developers are going to struggle. Which is why a lot of times I'm pretty sure a lot of you have had instances where developers are complaining that, oh, this design is this design is that, and the designers complain that, oh, developer is this, developer is that, and then there's a clash and everybody's trying to break everybody's head, right? It's because the basics or the fundamentals were not gotten right. That's what causes this problem, right? So when we talk about design is really about crafting solutions, like simply put, it's about crafting solutions. So I know it's possible that some of us have not even, tried to design anything. It's possible that some of us have not tried to use Figma, and that's quite fine because this is really like the grassroots of everything. So before you start thinking about, oh, I need to learn how to use Figma, oh, I need to learn how to design this, I need to learn how to make fine things. I'm not sure you should really be worried about that right now. What you really should be thinking about is, the fundamentals, the basics, the why behind everything, right? Before you think about building a product, you have to ask yourself why you're even doing it in the first place. It's once your why have been straightened out, has been figured out, that you can now start thinking, oh, I know I'm trying to build this. Let me now figure out the structure to build it, right? So when it comes to design, you need to understand your why, and then you need to understand that there are different aspects that makes up design as a whole. Design is not just design, right? There are different aspects. And like I already mentioned, there is the UI aspect and then there's the UX aspect, right? It's a UI and UX aspect. It's not just one. right? I had mentioned that one cannot function without the other. In as much as we're trying to do something that looks very, very good, you would agree with me that if you design something that looks very, very good right now, and then people struggle with it, people don't understand what to press, they don't understand where to go, then that design will automatically be a failure. That product will automatically be a failure because people are going to uninstall at the end of the day. Right. So it's important to understand that in as much as it's and I'm using a layman's definition right now. That's why I'm not saying a lot of UI and UX. But basically UI means user interface. That's what people see when they're interacting with your product. And then UX means user experience. That's how they feel when they're interacting with your product. So when I say things like how things look, it means I'm talking about user interface. And when I say things about how people feel, like what people are experiencing when they're going through the app, I'm basically talking about user experience, right? So these are the two aspects that makes up design in a whole, right? So I already talked about the fact that design is about solving problems and improving experiences, right? And one thing you need to note is that it's not enough. It's very, very easy for designers to get carried away with how things look, but it's not enough to focus on good looks. You also have to focus on the experiences, how people feel when they are navigating through your product, right? And the thing is, what happens is that when you get designers or when you get products that the designer takes into account how it looks and then how people feel when they are using it, that's when you get really perfect, really awesome products. Right. And I'm going to give you instances, right? I'm pretty sure a lot of us have experienced instances whereby we have and the thing is that design transcends digital products, right? Even down to your mobile phones, your power bank, the chairs that you sit on, how your TV is structured, everything is literally designed, right? So a lot of us, or some of us at some point in our life might have been in a situation whereby we see a product that is really, really cool that we like. And then when it comes to time for us to use it, we start complaining that, oh, that is that. This phone is too big in my hand. I don't like the shape of my power bank. I don't like where the USB port of this stuff is located. We get things like that all the time. And the reason is because somebody somewhere made a mistake of not thinking through everything completely. And then they shipped a product that at the end of the day gets people complaining, even though it looks very, very good, right? And that's really, really bad, right? So the whole essence of this is to help you understand that design is way more than moving pixels together. Don't let anybody convince you that you should be comfortable with sticking with either UI or UX. As designers who aspire to be great, you cannot be comfortable with one. You have to be able to spread your wings. You have to be able to cover enough ground. Because when people talk, like when you want to break down the tasks that a designer has to cover, right? You hear people talk about wireframing, you hear people talk about user research, you hear people talk about prototyping, mockups, and everything. But you need to understand that a lot of these back-end tasks, a lot of things that you need to do falls under UX. Like a lot of them don't even fall under user interface, they fall under UX. Because when you think about the likes of wireframing, really, what is wireframing? Right. Wireframing is basically building a structure, like creating a structure that an app is going to follow, basically building a foundation, right? So that's why when you see people creating wireframes, they bring boxes together to indicate, oh, these are going to be pictures are going to be here, a heading is going to be here, body text are going to be here, a button is going to be here. That's wireframing. That's basically trying to build up a structure. We're trying to say that, okay, as a user, when the user visits the page, right, let's just put a logo here so that's the first thing the person will see. And then maybe around here, let's just fix these buttons here so that after they see the logo, then they can perform this action. And maybe underneath here, let's put an image here so that after they've seen the logo and then they perform this action, they can now, see this picture. And then can you see how wireframing works? Like it's a building block, really. It's step by step. So wireframing is not UI per se. Wireframing is UX. Things like a user research, they don't fall under UI. They fall under UX. Because why are you researching? Why? What is the point of the researching? You're researching so that you can understand what the users need, what they are going through, and how what you're building is going to help them, right? So when you're researching also, that's a UX a UX approach to things. It's not UI per se. So you've researched, you've wireframed, you test, right? You create a close-knit group of people that can help you test your wireframe and do A/B testing and everything. Even as down to your lo-fi, right? You're still trying to build UX, because the reason why I'm going to say like UX also, I mean, lo-fi falls under UX, is that lo-fi is not the final outcome of how the product is going to look, right? Lo-fi is just a way to make it a little bit easier for people that are going to test to understand what you're trying to show them. And I'm going to share some example very quickly. There are times where I'm pretty sure a lot of us have seen sketches, like where people sketch things and make wireframes and just put boxes and lines and shapes together. Sometimes people might not understand what they're saying. So it makes sense for you to now, okay, you know what, instead of just lines and boxes, maybe we'll just put a shape here instead. Maybe we'll just give this a gray color. Maybe we'll just do this and that. Those colors I'm putting are not the final output. They are not the main UI, but they are just to aid the users or aid the testers in being able to understand what you're trying to show them. So when you look at things, a lot of the first steps when it comes to design is UX, right? You have to talk to clients, you have to talk to stakeholders, you have to understand what they want, you have to understand what the stakeholders are expecting, what the clients need, you have to put everything together, you have to make your own research, you have to look at existing apps out there, how they are doing it, what they are not doing properly. Oh, lo-fi. Lo-fi means low fidelity, not low files. It's low fidelity. So basically, how it works is that and I can share my screen right now to show you something really quickly. And I hope this helps. Give me a second. All right. Just so everybody can follow along, let me show you this. Let's do Figma. All right. Can you see my screen? If you can see my screen, please let me know in the chat. Okay. Hold on a second, please. All right. So see something like this, for instance, when you notice that there are times when you see products, right? Or you see some designs, maybe people's portfolios that you've seen out there, and you see them have things like, things like this. But instead of a few, they probably just have a stroke, right? And then you see stuff like this. Maybe this is supposed to be, let's say the menu, right? And then you have things like this here, right? Let me reduce it a bit so it looks slightly better. And then you have, some content here also, right? And basically, you see things like this a lot, especially when you look at design portfolios out there, where people just map out structures and, yeah, and maybe this is supposed to be some texts underneath this, right? And then maybe there's also one for this, and then there's also one for these, right? This is the structure that a wireframe takes, right? Basically, it tells you, it helps you in a way, it helps you map out a foundation, right? Okay, for this stuff I'm trying to build, maybe let's just show them a logo first, and then let's put the menu here so that maybe when they've seen the logo, we can give them some actions that they can perform. And let's just put an introductory image here, something that can entice them so it doesn't look like we're feeding them with too much information, right? Maybe we'll just position some content here, some images, and then put some descriptions under it. Now, this is how a wireframe can look. Now, when it comes to doing lo-fi, right? Lo-fi now goes from something like this to actually maybe, having stuff like this, right? And then you're bringing in this case, let's bring in an image icon, right? We're not necessarily designing everything yet, but just so that people would understand exactly what we're trying to show them, we can now do stuff like this, right? Where we bring in and image. So the difference between this wireframe and this lo-fi, that's low fidelity design, is that if you look at this, you might not understand that this is supposed to be an image. Like you wouldn't know. Like this is just a box. I mean, you know that I'm trying to tell you that, oh, something is going to be here, but a random person might not understand, right? But if I look at this version, I know that, oh, this has an image icon. Okay, so it means that there's an image here. Do you get the difference? And then in lo-fi, that's when you start seeing things where people now write things like maybe logo. You know, they try to detail it out a little bit just so it's easier for people to understand. Do you get? And that's when they switch this from things like this, right, to texts that probably just say some, all those dummy texts that designers use, just so that you understand that, okay, these boxes, I mean, these rectangles I'm showing you here are not random rectangles. They ought to be texts, right? And then the difference is now that this is easier for people to understand and comprehend than this. So this is where low fidelity comes into place, right? That's where low fidelity comes into place. So let me continue with what I was saying, right? I hope we're able to understand that. I was not able to check the chat when I was doing that, so hopefully, like we get that, right? So that's the difference. So even things like low fidelity and the likes, right? They are still under UX, because if you think about it in a way, it's you helping people to understand that, oh, I know you want to test this right now, and you might not understand this. Okay, take this version instead and test, right? It's when everything is done, when you've done the research, you've done, your A/B testing, you've shared with stakeholders, they understand what they are saying and they like the approach. You've mapped out, you've done your wireframing, you've done your user persona. There's a lot of things that needs to be done. And as you go on in your journey, like we're still going to take you through the deliverables when it comes to we're still going to take you to through the deliverables of UX, like every single thing that you need to know under UX design. I'm just trying to give you a rough overview. Right. It's when you're done with everything UX, that you now go back, that you now start actually designing. So in a case where, yeah, by the way, you're not seeing my screen anymore because I've stopped sharing. I use Figma for that. You would also learn about Figma next week, so don't worry about that. So it's when you're done with everything UX that you cannot be like, okay, let's take this structure that we've built, this wireframe, this low fidelity design that we have, and actually start building on it. The reason why we can build on it now is because we've built a structure that everybody agrees on. We've built a structure that works. I've shared with the stakeholder, and the stakeholder understand what we're trying to do. We've tested with some people, some testers, and then they were able to, oh, okay, so this is what okay, an image is going to be, a text is going to be, I like this, I understand this, I can work with this. It's when a structure has been built that, you can now start adding color, start choosing typography. Okay, what color is going to make more sense here? What color is going to resonate with what we're trying to help users feel? Right? What size of font should I use? I mean, what size of font should I use here? What color of font should I use here? Where should I place this? Right? So it's when you're done with all that, that you can now go into the actual designing part, where you're adding colors, you're making it pop and everything, right? So basically, that's how it works, right? There's a lot of things that you need to do in the underground, under the UX part of things, before you go into design. That's why, like I said earlier, it's advisable that you don't let anybody make you feel like, oh, you can just be a UI designer. There are some people that will tell you that they are, but in order for you to not face problems, right, it's best to understand every aspect. You can understand every aspect, and then maybe you join a team that has UX designers separately, and then you are functioning as a UI designer. It pays you that way. But a lot of teams will prefer if they have people that know both, so that even if they need you to do one, at least you still know how to do the other. So if they need you to step in, you'll be there for them, right? So that's a little bit of overview. And I think in the video we shared some images, right, about how um and by the way, please keep your questions. You're going to get a chance to ask me really quickly. Just keep them. Then I shared some images about the difference, like how bad UX affects designs, right? And I think I can share my screen again so that we can just discuss that, and then we can wrap up with that, so I can take your questions, because I want to have a lot of time to take enough questions today. Okay, so let me share my screen again really quickly and show you and show you what I mean. Let's go back to Figma. All right. Okay. Hold on a second, please. All right, let's go to this. Can you guys see my screen? Can you see what I'm currently showing you? Are you seeing this file? I just need somebody to say yes so I can continue. Awesome. All right, so where I wanted to go was awesome. Thank you very much for saying that. Where I wanted to go was this, right? So this is a perfect example of what I was saying earlier, where you could see that this road was neatly designed. I mean, if you have, very neat roads like this in a lot of places in Nigeria, a lot of us will be complaining, right? So this is a perfectly designed road, but you would notice that people have formed their own paths strictly because this poses to be a longer journey for them. Nobody wants to waste 1 second of their time. Really, nobody wants to waste 1 second of their time, which is why you would notice that even though there are, hundreds or maybe even thousands of fintech apps today, thousands more are still going to be developed. Why? Because for every single app that comes out, there's always one thing that one client is complaining about, or a few clients is complaining about, that new people can build on to make their own products. Which is why there might be some app today that you'd rely on for particular transactions. And then when you see an alternative, you port to another one for other types of transactions. It's because one single app is not solving every problem. Right, so that's the thing about this. They have built a road that makes sense. I mean, it makes it like it's obvious that people are expected to take this road, but because it's I mean, look at this distance, for instance. One might argue that the distance to come here and turn is not really a lot, so why are they not taking it? But even though to you it might seem like it's unreasonable for people to try to like take a shortcut, but then again, they don't care. They just want to make things, they just want to make things like easier for themselves. So at the end of the day, you now have to start thinking, it's not about building the fine road. Like, it's not about building the fine road. It's building things that people need at the moment. So if for instance, right, what people need is a product that is a little bit faster. It doesn't have to do a lot of things different, but they need to be able to perform actions faster. And you give that to them, they will port to you because what you're solving a major need of theirs, you're solving a major problem, right? I'm going to give an instance. I don't know if a lot of us use OP, but OP is a fintech app that that allows you to use your phone number as your bank account number. Initially, when I heard of OP, I was like, I don't like it. I'm not resonating with it. But I tried it and I'm able to make transactions faster. And these days, I use OP for my everyday transactions. I don't even go to my regular banks. If I move money from my regular banks to my OP, I use OP for day-to-day transactions. Of course, I don't save on that, but I use that because it's a lot faster. And that's the kind of things that we're saying. And by the way, yes, we can share this slide with you. That's not a problem. Another example would be the Apple Magic Mouse. Now, the Apple Magic Mouse, when it came out, was very, very cool. I mean, everybody loved it. I personally loved it and I wanted to get it, right? But it was not until it now got to a point where people were trying to charge, right? And then they could not charge their mouse. Imagine a mouse that the charging port is underneath. So it means that whenever I want to charge, I literally have to turn it off and leave it. I can't use it. Compared to other types of mouse that are out there, that the charging port is right in front. So whether or not I want to work while charging or I want to leave it while charging, I'm not going to be disturbed. Right. So this is a terrible design, which is why a lot of people at the end of the day ended up porting from the Apple Magic Mouse, because there are definitely going to be times where your battery is going to be dead. You might have to work weekends and then your battery died during the weekend and then you're in the office on Monday and you have to charge. So are you going to wait for two hours, or maybe even if it's 30 minutes, are you going to wait for 30 minutes for your mouse to charge before you start working? It doesn't make sense, right? So that's why, in as much as good UI is good, UX also plays a very important role. And then there's the example of the face masks. I mean, everybody, like, we all experienced corona is when it was rampant and it was causing lockdown and everything. And then eventually people were able to go out to an extent if they had their mask on. But you still see that at that point, people that were supposed to be covering their nostrils and their mouths with the mask are leaving their nostrils open and then they are covering just their mouth. That's terrible. Like it's that's a terrible use of the face mask, because you're supposed to be protecting your, like, every part of your face where you can pollute the air or inhale polluted air, right? You're supposed to be protecting yourself completely. But people just, I mean, for them it makes sense to cover their mouth alone, right? Which is why, if you look, there were other masks that there were masks that were designed to hold your nose and your face. Like, if you see them, you can't, it's not possible for you to use them for just your mouth, for just your mouth alone. And you notice that even that time, a lot of people that could afford those kinds of face masks were buying those types, right? Because in a way, it looked like it was going to protect you more, right? It looks like it was going to protect you more, and it just made sense. I mean, obviously, face masks like that are more expensive, obviously, but people that think that it's going to protect them more would definitely, and can afford them, would definitely go for them. Right, so that's what we're saying. And then we have the ketchup bottle. I'm pretty a lot of us should know how ketchup bottles used to look back in the days. Where, how a soft drink bottle is, like a Pepsi or maybe Fanta bottle back in the days used to look, where the opening is at the top, right? That was how a ketchup bottle was. So whenever people want to, like, pour some ketchup on whatever it is that they want to pour the ketchup on, they now have to start eating the base of the bottle, like, to ensure that those ketchup come out. And that was terrible. I mean, it looks fine. Like, this initial approach looks fine. I mean, it looks aesthetically pleasing, right? But it doesn't work. It's too much stress. I don't want to have blisters on my hand every time I want to use a ketchup, right? Every time I want to use my ketchup. So, which is why this new design that they did now started making more sense. Now it's no longer, now the bottle is upside down, and that's how it's designed. So whenever you need your ketchup, all you have to do is hold the bottle the way it is, open the lid, and squeeze. Simply squeeze, the same way you squeeze your toothpaste out of the tube. You squeeze, right? And it makes life easier. Nobody complains anymore. Nobody's saying, "Oh, let's go back to the old ketchup." Nobody says that, because that one was stressing people out, right? So that's basically some differences that you can see, or some examples that we can share. There are a lot of examples. There are a lot of even to the everyday products that you use. There are products that you complain that, oh, this is doing that. It's because somebody somewhere omitted something that they were not supposed to omit. They didn't think about something that they were supposed to think about, which is why I'm going back to say that realistically, people don't need just UI designers. They need designers that are good in both aspects, so that those designers can can provide them information on the best approaches that they can take. Yeah, because sometimes companies don't have a complete idea of what they want. They have an idea of what they want, right? But they don't have a complete idea. It's when you come in and then you're trying to help them solve problems, that okay, and you're asking them questions. What do you want to achieve? What do you want your clients to feel? What do you want this to do? And they will start telling you that, we want them to be able to do ABC. So how do you want them to feel? I don't know which one is feeling again now. It's not for them to be able to use the app. Clients say that, right? They say that it's not for them to be able to use the app. So it's now left to you. Now imagine that you've only been focused on UI, maybe the interaction part of it, the visual designs, the 3D, the glassmorphism, all those badass concepts, trends that have been, that swept everybody up their feet in the last couple of years. But if those were the only things you focused on, then you will not be of great use to the company. And that's why sometimes it's easy for designers to lose their job, because whenever companies see an alternative, or probably they come out, they encounter an AI tool that probably promises them, you know what? If you type in a prompt, will generate a design for you. That's why some designers lose their jobs to that, right? But if you're a designer that really understands user experience, that helps clients, right, you would be indispensable to them. I'm going to wrap up this with a short story, right? There was a project that I got contacted on to work on a while back, not a while back, very recently. And when we were talking, the initial phase of the conversation was us trying to understand what they wanted. So we had like a 2-hour long call where they were walking me through. In fact, they even went to a point where they sketched out some things. So it looks like they had a pretty clear idea of what they wanted, right? And I looked at everything and I gave them a quote. I told them it was going to cost this amount. And then they were like, it's too much, right? And then I had to explain to them that everything that you're telling me now, it looks like we're covering everything. But the truth is, by the time we start, we're going to encounter this, that. And I was literally listing out things that we're going to encounter to them. And it seems like at some point, right? At some point, the PM was telling me that they were excited that they went with me, that the kind of attention, the kind of help I've offered them, that they are not sure that if they went to somebody else, the person would have offered them that kind of help. And why is that? Because even though it took us a lot of back and forth before I eventually got them to agree to the price I was charging them, there will be times I will be on a call. I would work on my updates for the week and share, and then they'll be like, "Oh, okay, there's actually something we forgot to mention." And I'll just smile because I've charged you for it already. So I expected this. Let's go. And then they'll tell me what they wanted, but they didn't know how they wanted to achieve it. So it was now left to me to tell them, "Oh, okay, let's see. If you want to do this, I would suggest that we do A, B, C so that we can achieve D, F, right?" And then we had a lot of conversations like this, and which was all led him to telling me something like, "I'm so glad that we went with you. You've been very, very helpful to the call," right? And in fact, he was even telling me he's telling me that before we end that one, that is going to bring me up on another one, that they have another project that they're going to work on. That's what happens when you're completely useful to your clients. Now imagine that all I knew was just how to design fine interfaces, because they had no complaint on the interface whatsoever. The only conversation we're having was, okay, we want to do this. How do we approach it? We want to do this. How do we approach it? So imagine that I only knew how to design good UI, and I was like, and they were telling me, oh, how do we achieve that? And I was like, you'll have to go and hire a UX designer now. You have to go and they will look at me like, why would I have to hire two designers? Because to them, there's no difference. Honestly, they are hiring a designer. Clients don't necessarily care that, oh, somebody is saying UI. So, they're hiring a designer, so they're expecting you to know everything. If you cannot provide them that value, then it's very, very easy for them to pass up on you and go find somebody else. So that's where we're going, right? At the end of the day, both sides matter. And when the fundamentals, when the foundations have been well structured, well laid out, it's now very, very easy, very, very easy for you to build up on it, for you to create UIs. Because sometimes I'm not even going to lie to you. There are designs that I've done in a couple of days. I'm not going to lie to you. There are designs that I've done in a couple of days. There are designs that I've done in a couple of weeks. And there are designs that I've done in a couple of months. The difference between those designs is the level of information that I have and the level of structure and foundation that have been built. If somebody's coming to me with a project that I've done multiple times, like countless times, maybe you're coming to me or you want to design a fintech app, you want to design a website, things that I've done multiple times, it's going to be easier and faster for me to solve that problem and give them what they want. Because from the past project that I've done, I've had so much experience with doing this, that I've talked to people and everything, that I now understand what is expected. And so the research that I have to do is not going to take me so much time than when we are working on something afresh and I have no idea what I'm trying to do. And that's when sometimes this design career gets frustrating, because if you don't have no idea of, like, if what the client is trying to build doesn't exist yet, it gets so frustrating because you have to think about everything from scratch. You have to start, okay, how do we do this? Is it even possible? Like, how developers going, how do I represent it? It's a lot of work. These are the kind of designs, right, that take months to finish. But there are designs that once you hear it and then you know that something like that is in existence, and it's easier for you to build up on things, mistakes that those existing ones have made, and then move up on them. All right, so I don't want to take too much more time, so that I can have time to take questions. But that's the basics really, and we're going to share this with you. And subsequently, I'm also going to share some resources that I have that you can also read up on to help you learn better. Because for me, I believe that once you learn, like once you understand the basics, you are going to be fine. We know that the design track is not easy, but no career path is, right? No career path is, but that's not enough reason for you to be discouraged. Anybody can design. Like, anybody can design. Doesn't matter the kind of background that you are. Once you understand the basics, you can design. The problem is that people don't want to take time to understand the basics. They want to run to start creating fine interfaces so that they can make money. The money will come. Obviously, you get to a point where clients will be calling you, but the basics are very, very important. All right, so I'm going to stop here so we can start taking questions. All right. So I think it might be beneficial if we had an approach where you raise up your hand, like you indicate by raising up your hand, and I tell you to unmute yourself, and then you talk. Yeah, so if you have questions, just raise up your hand so I don't have to scroll through the chat. The chats are quite long. Okay, nobody's raising up their hand. Should I assume that nobody has questions? I mean, if you want to ask questions in the chat too, it's fine, but it might be easy for me to miss it. I'm seeing one. Okay, yeah. Sasu. You can unmute yourself. I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing your name very well.
That's okay. Yeah, I pasted my question in the chat. Thank you very much, by the way, for the lesson. I'm
You're
just having some
welcome.
trouble distinguishing between UI problems and UX problems, especially with the questions
Okay.
in the assignment. At the
Okay.
end of the day, it seems like everything is a UX problem because even yeah, I'm basically what I pasted is the question. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Think about it this way. Think about it this way. Whenever you are experiencing a product for the first time, right? Whenever you're experiencing a product for the first time and you don't understand what you are seeing, right? So UI is all about what people see, like the aesthetics of the products that they are going through, right? Which is why we talked about, yeah, we'll get to you, Emmanuel. Sorry, hold on a second. Which is why, excuse me, which is why we talked about typography, color, hierarchy, consistency, stuff like that. Stuff like that are UI problems where imagine that you're going through, and you probably have seen this, imagine that you're going through a blog post, let's say blog post for instance, right? You know, blog posts naturally, I mean, all of us have read a post at some point in our lives. Blog posts naturally have a heading, they have a title, and then they have subheadings, maybe discussing things, and then they have, other headings underneath them. You'll notice that when you go through posts like this, the titles are big, they are huge. The fonts or the typeface for the titles are way bigger than the typeface for the subheadings and the likes of them. Why is that? It's hierarchy. So that people will understand that this is the beginning, this is the main title, right? And then when they are in, they are seeing other titles that are bold, but they are smaller. They're able to decipher that, okay, this is also a heading, but it's not the main heading. This is just the heading under the main heading, right? So that's an example of how UI can help, because imagine that you're reading a blog post and then the title is taking a certain font and everything under the title is taking the same font, the same font size and font width, and then outlines that you're also trying to make are taking the same font sizes and font width. It's going to be difficult for you to understand where you are. Like you won't be able to tell, okay, am I making progress? Is this point under this heading? Where is this one coming in? Where is this one coming from? That's a visual problem. That's an aesthetic problem. That's a UI problem. Do you get? But a case where you open a blog post and then, or you open an application and you're going through and you're seeing different sections, you're able to differentiate the sections clearly, right? If this section is going to perform, it's supposed to perform one action, the container holding that section is well separated from the containers open the other sections where you can perform other actions, right? So basically what you see, and you see that in a lot of your banking apps also, you see that they separate things. They don't necessarily just jam pack everything together. It's for you to be able to understand that, oh, if you want to perform this action, you should not exceed this box. If you want to perform this action, you should not exceed this box. Those are UI problems. But when it comes to UX, is how you feel. When, for instance, if you're going through an app and you get confused, you don't know where else to go. You don't understand some CTAs. By the way, CTAs means call to action. They are those buttons that you see underneath different sections of your product that tells you, oh, get started, delete, copy. Those buttons are your call to actions, right? Now imagine that you're trying to sign up on an app, right? Regular CTAs use things like proceed. Maybe you've done everything that was requested for you to do in that particular page, and the button underneath says proceed. So an extent you can understand, it means that I should continue, right? What if the person that is holding that phone is not educated enough to understand that, oh, proceed actually means to continue, right? That's why some other applications, instead of using proceed, they use continue, right? So it's about what is written, how it makes people feel. Continue is way easier to understand than proceed, right? And then there is the likes of when people are trying to perform the action, are they easily able to find where those actions are located? I don't know if you've been in a situation whereby you're using an app and then you want to perform an action, probably maybe a banking app, you want to get your bank statement, right? Or you want to block your card. And naturally, everybody would think that, oh, if I go to settings, I should see a page that says, or a button that says maybe block my card or something like that. But imagine that you went to settings and you didn't see anything like that, right? So you're wondering, where can I do this? Where can I perform this action? Those are UX problems, because it's not what you need is not accessible to you as quickly as you need it. Maybe somewhere in the app that functionality is there, but it's not accessible. You could not find it, right? Or maybe I'm using an app and then the app is just very, very depressing. Like it's loading very, very slowly, right? The interactions are lame, right? And the pictures are dull. Some apps can make you depressed, honestly, right? So any problem that has to do with what you see, maybe the font is too big, the font is too small, the button is too big. Those are UI problems. But anything that transcends that goes into you not understanding what you're reading, or there isn't big grammars that you don't understand, right? So anything that transcends UI, that goes into the main functionalities of the app and how the app makes you feel, right? That's UX. So a lot of times, the major problem that applications have are UX problems, a lot of times. But at the end of the day, in order for you to be able to differentiate it, just keep it at the back of your mind, right? That anything that has to do with the aesthetics means look. Anything that has to do with the look of a product, basically what you're saying, that's UI. Anything that has to do with the functionality and how the product makes you feel, that's UX. Do you understand what you're saying? Are the languages clear? The buttons that you need to perform specific actions, can you easily find them? Are you able to locate where actions are hidden? Stuff like that, right? So I hope that answers your question. It's SAS. Sorry.
That's so yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, I think where it gets confusing is when what you see, like for example, tiny font affects functionality, then you can't really read it, so you can't perform an
Yeah,
action or
that's a
something.
UI problem. That's a
That's
UI
still a
problem.
UI problem. Okay. All right.
Yes.
Thank
Yes.
you.
That's your problem. Yeah. So Emmanuel, you can go next. Please, there's no time. When I call you, just try to unmute and that was your question. Okay, since Emmanuel is not available, Ibukun.
Sir, I'm available, sir. I'm available, sir.
Okay, go on. What's your question?
Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, I got it. And the size not necessary, please. I'm dummy. So
Okay, sir. Sir, please, I'm trying to understand if UI is all about the designs. Then UX is all about like the arrangement of the designs on the page or a website.
sorry, I didn't quite get the last part.
Okay, sir, I'm trying to understand if UI is all about like the design, the way the app is gonna look like. Then UX is all about the arrangement, the format, like the arrangement of how everything's gonna be on the app or the website.
Okay, you can mute your mic. Sorry, there's a lot of background noise from your end. I got your question. Okay.
Hello.
All right, so I got your question. Yeah, so like I've been explaining, UI is all about what you see, the design, like how everything looks, the colors, your choice of colors, your choice of images, your choice of fonts, the sizes of those fonts, the sizes of those images, basically everything you see, is UI related. But when it comes to UX is about the functionality, right? The usability, the functionality, how people feel, right? So of course, things like the arrangement that you said, it's like the structure that falls under the likes of wireframe, which is also UX, right? So the arrangement, how you place the elements on the page together, how you expect them to work together to be able to help the users perform specific actions, right? Because think about it this way: every single function that you want people to perform on your app has a flow. So if, for instance, I'm saying, and I think I'll just stick with using a banking app as an example so that we can all follow along. If, for instance, I'm saying, okay, this banking app should be able to allow people transfer money. Let's start with that, to another bank account. So there's going to be a flow for that. Of course, there's going to be where I create an account, right? I sign in, right? I'm seeing my dashboard, right? And then I would have to see a button that says transfer. or maybe transfer money, right? And then I click on transfer, right? And then I would have to decide if I want to transfer to maybe the same bank account or a different bank account, maybe an account in the same bank or a different bank, and I can select, okay, a different bank. And then I need to see a place where I can choose the bank that I want to send to, enter the account details or account number, right? And when I do that, I should be able to see something that helps me confirm that the account information is correct. That's a flow. You can see how it started to where we're going. So everything about that flow, everything about the structure of that flow, everything falls under the user experience. Because if, for instance, I want to perform that transaction and I log into the account and I don't see anything like transfer on my dashboard, there's nothing like transfer on my dashboard, and I'm wondering, okay, how do I do this? Where's transfer? Maybe transfer is hidden under a button somewhere, and then I now have to start clicking into all the buttons to try to find where the transfer button is. That's bad UX. That's a UX problem, right? So UX is all about the journey itself. UI is about, so see, just remember this, right? UI attracts users. And UX is what retains them. So even if you look at websites, for instance, right, and you see a picture of a very, very maybe beautiful model. Think of these clothing brands. They use a lot of beautiful models or beautiful and handsome models to market their products, because you understand that when people see attractive people, they are drawn in. Do you get right? So people see sites like that and then they click in. I want to see more. Right. So you've been able to attract them because of a nice UI, a nice interface, a nice design, very high quality pictures. But the question is, now that I'm in and I want to scroll, is the site going to be loading really slowly? Am I going to be struggle to find my way around? Do you get? So it's questions like that that begs the need for proper UX. So UX is about the journey, how people feel, like the major functionalities of the app, which is why it is very, very important and cannot be ignored. Do you understand? You can unmute to let me know that you understand so that I can move on to the next person. Okay. I hope you understand. Okay. Ibukun, you're next.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon.
Yeah, my question is, like, I know you're a professional, right? So if you have any projects now, do you still do your wireframing?
Okay, that's a very, very good question.
And
The
I
truth
have two
is,
questions. Let me ask the other one. And again, is there
okay.
any standard font for headings and subheading, like the standard font?
Okay, thank you. Is that all the questions that you have?
Yes, thank you.
Awesome. All right, so here's the thing. The need for wireframing sometimes comes when you're trying to figure things out, right? It mostly comes when you're trying to figure things out. It's not all the projects that I've done that I had to do wireframing for. Like I said, there are times where you would have worked on, personally, I've worked on some particular niche of products countless times, that if a new client comes today and they say they want to build something and they say, okay, these are the things that I want to do, I already understand the core basics of what is requested to make that project a reality. And that's been real. It's chances are you go online today. You go online today and you probably see people telling you that, oh, every single project must start with. It's not completely true. If you don't understand everything that you're doing, if you're relatively new or you're working on a project that has not been done before, then those steps are mandatory. They are necessary for you yourself to make your lives easier. But once you've been in the field for a while and you've gotten to a point where you've worked on some particular projects multiple times, right? You wouldn't necessarily have to start with wireframes anymore. Chances are you already know everything, most things that you need to do, and then you can build on that. And then if the clients have questions, or in fact, because of your experience, you probably even add things that you know that will be beneficial for them that they might not even have thought about before. And then when they see it, they will now ask you, okay, why is this? And then you'll be able to explain to them. And then everybody goes, their happy way. But it's not every single project that you have to go and start sketching and start wireframing for. That's not realistic. There are times where projects will come and the clients will tell you that, okay, alpha, for this, in fact, they will call a very huge amount of money for you. For this amount of money, can you do this project in 3 weeks? Right? And now I'm not encouraging that you jump on a project because of the big money. No, I'm saying that there are times where timelines, right, People will give you very, ridiculous timelines, but because you have a certain level of experience in that field, you'll be able to tackle that problem. Like I said earlier, there are projects that I've done in a couple of days, there are projects I've done in 1 week, there are projects I've done in 2, and there are some that I've done in maybe months, right? So it really depends on the particular task that you're working on. But personally, from my personal experience, it's not all the projects that I've had to work on that I had to start with wireframing. And that's because I've been able to understand to an extent from working on multiple projects of that same category that, okay, these are the things that are necessary. I don't have to go and do research for them anymore because I have them. And I don't have to waste time putting blocks together to try to figure things out, because really I don't have to figure it out. I already know it, right? I know that, so it's now easy for me to just, let me just do this because I know it and then share with them, right? So for your second question, what's the second question again? Sorry.
Yeah, so is there any standard font for adding?
Yes. No.
Font
No.
for adding?
No. As a designer, it's to your discretion. It's to your discretion. But here's the thing: we're also going to be talking. That's the good thing about this course. We're also going to be talking about typography, psychology of color, stuff like that. You should have seen your curriculum by now. So we'll cover those things. But a little snippet, right? There are different fonts that evokes different emotions, right? And of course, which is why we've been talking about UI and UX, because of course how people feel. You can't tell me that you want to design a maybe Valentine related website and then you are using the fonts that people use for horror movies to write "I love you" or "will you be mine." Like, when people read those kind of sentences, the "will you be mine" is looking like I want to claim your soul, right? So there are different fonts that evoke different emotions. As a designer, it's your discernment, the one that you want to use. Wow, does it look good? Does it evoke the right emotions? Like, is it basically those are the two major things. Does it look good, number one, and does it evoke the right emotions? Once those two criteria have been checked, then you are free to use the font, right? But a lot of times, you hear designers say things like, "Oh, don't use Arial," or "Don't use Roman." Is it Roman Times? What's the name of that font in Microsoft Word? In design, that's because those fonts they are not unique. They are everywhere. Like they are just there. And that's why sometimes you even hear designers say things like, "Oh, I hate Montserrat. I dislike Roboto. I dislike." It's not because those fonts are terrible. No. It's because, number one, it's mostly because those fonts are very, very common. They are everywhere. So they don't make your design look unique. I'm pretty sure you've gone to Dibru or Behance or Awards and you're seeing some sites and you're like, my goodness. The reason why you're saying my goodness, part of the reason you will notice is because of the kind of fonts they use. I can't count the number of sites I've bookmarked just because I love the fonts. I don't care about anything else, but the fonts was just so sweet that I have to keep it, even if it's paid. I might not have the money now, but I'll buy it at some point. Do you get? So there's nobody. Don't let anybody come and tell you that this is the only font that you should use for this. No, right? You can choose. There are different categories of font. There's serif, there's cursive, there's a lot of them. There's sans serif. So at the end of the day, it's to your discernment what you decide to end up using. Do you understand?
Yes, thank you.
Awesome. Are we good? Can we move on to the next person? Okay, I'm going to take that as a yes. Abraham, it's your turn. What's your question, please?
Good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon. Did you just call me sir? Please, oh, please, I'm not sir. I'm Damilola.
Good afternoon, Dami.
Thank you. Good afternoon. What's up?
Please, my question might be a bit long, but I just hope it doesn't confuse you. First of all, I would start by saying, I'm actually a novice, like I'm a total novice, I'm a beginner. But then I'm hearing
That's fine.
I'm hearing some of my colleagues here talk of wireframing, and they're actually using some of these jargons I haven't even heard of. So I wanted to ask, I don't know how long it would actually take us, or how long this class, or how far this class can help us in attaining one sort of level that we can then go further from there on our own. It's number one. Then number two, if you check this social media space, you see some people attributing themselves as probably a UI UX designer or a product designer. So this career path one has chosen now, after these whole classes and yeah, you've done well for yourself, you are already into the Figma sheet and every other stuff, what is it that I am learning to become a product designer, or I am learning to become a UI UX designer? Because it's actually confusing. Or can a product designer also be termed a UI UX designer if he can just do everything?
Awesome. Awesome. Amazing question. Amazing question. Sorry, before I answer that, for what are the name? For Emmanuel and Ibukun, can you please like drop your hands? Your hands are still raised and it's looking like you still have questions. All right, Abraham. Okay, for your first question, we are going to give you every single thing you need to be able to continue your learning on your own, right? The whole essence of this course that you're on right now, like I said before, the first thing is for designers. I believe the first thing for designers is to understand the basics. And that's really how it goes for learning anything. Once you understand the basic formulas, you would be able to build up on them. So the essence of this training is to help you understand the basics. It's fine that you're a novice. I mean, we were all novice at some point. Do you get? Don't get confused with the jargons. Like you will learn those terms. You will learn those terms. And if there's somebody unmuted. And if at any point there is a term that confuses you, be sure to ask, right? I'm pretty sure some people ask me questions to explain, what are the meaning of some words I use, and I did explain them. So don't get confused with the jargons. And when it comes to you learning, if you're able to dedicate a lot of time to actually learning the basics, I think you're going to be fine in no time. Please, for people that are unmuting themselves, if you could not do that, that would be great. David Archie. Okay, thank you very much. All right, so Abraham, so it's all about you. That if you can dedicate a lot of time to this and you grab the basics, you are going to be fine. Don't let anybody derail you or make you feel like, oh, you're even a beginner, I've not gotten anywhere. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. We at some point we're all beginners, right? So don't worry about every single thing you need to learn. And that's why that you would notice that so far in this intro, I've not really been hammering on, oh, let me show you how to design this. We'll get there. That part is coming. The whole essence of this is for you to understand the basics, get your why right. Like, why am I designing this site? What's this problem? Like, why is it a problem? If somebody is saying, I'm trying to find a way to send money from Nigeria to the diaspora, and I'm not able to do that. There are no tools for me to do that. The question is, why is that a problem? And then you start thinking, oh, it's because maybe there's been a lot of scamming rates, and the likes of PayPal have stopped working because Nigerians are flagged or banned from using like of PayPal. So it's now harder to collect to send or receive money. Then it's fine. That's why it's a problem, like trust, insecurity, right? So now the question is, how can we fix it? So you now start thinking, oh, okay, so maybe we have to partner with this bank, partner with that bank. Maybe before anybody, maybe even when we get access to allow Nigerians transfer money, we'll do some kind of serious vetting that if somebody is trying to scalp, they will not be able to complete that process. They will just get out and give up. That's why some of the fintech app that you're trying to use frustrate you today, because their vetting process is just crazy. They will ask if you're NIN, BVN, they will tell you to verify this, take a picture, snap the original copy of this. It's because they are trying to solve a particular problem, which is the same problem that a lot of people have been facing, right? So it's the why that matters. You will definitely get to that point where you can handle things on your own, right? And what you need to do right now is just dedicate time to learn. Allow yourself learn. Do you get? You will learn, you'll get everything that you need. It's not a problem. For the other aspect of the question, and I think it's also related to what somebody has asked. At the end of the day, okay, let me start by differentiating between these two so that we can clear the air. Personally, this is how I interpret these things. UI and UX designers, right? It's not the same thing. People write UI/UX, they call it UI/UX, but obviously what they mean is UI and UX designer. So UI and UX designers are supposed, according to their titles, to effectively handle the UI and UX part of things. They are supposed to effectively be able to design applications that look good and function well. That's how it's supposed to be. Now, you hear people also talk about product design or product designers. So personally, this is how I interpret it too. And I call myself, like, I mean, I'm a product designer, and this is why I call myself that. Product design goes further than user interface and user experience. It's one thing to design products that work and look good. That's the UX and UI part of things. But after that, what next? So as a product designer, for instance, I also act as a product evangelist, a product manager, a project manager. Basically, I make myself available after the project has been done. I work hand in hand with devs to understand what they are doing and correct them when they need correction and give them suggestions when they need. And the reason why I can do this is because I have some understanding of what works and what doesn't. Like I said earlier, I'm also a no-code developer. I build, platforms and solutions with Webflow. So to an extent, I understand a little bit about development. So I'm not the kind of designer that just designs and walk away. I've never been that. I design and I stay. I see it to the end. Deborah, you are unmuted. Okay, I've muted her. So I see it to the end. So if you want to consider yourself, it's okay if you want to be a UX and UI designer. That's fine. That means that you want to focus on the aesthetics and the functionality of the product that you're building. That's okay. But if you want to go further than that and you want to be considered as a product designer, then you need to be ready to also partner with the devs to actually see the product through. Basically, you are taking the product from the initial stage where the client came to you to say, oh, we have this problem that we're trying to solve. You're taking it through the UX design phase. You're taking it through the UI design phase. You're taking it through the development phase, meaning you are always there when the devs have questions. You're fixing things. You guys are brainstorming together. When there are things to fix, you're going back to Figma to fix it and then give it back to the devs. All right. And then when they are done, you are testing. You're doing QA like your life depends on it. Trust me, it's a lot of work, but that's how it works. So that at the end of the day, you can come out and say, I was able to take this from this point to this point. I did this from point A to point Z. Unlike when designers come and tell you that, oh, I was part of the team that designed, or I was the one who designed. Product designers can say that I started this concept from idealization and saw it to conclusion, and this is the result. Most times, UX and UI designers can only show you the app. Like they can show you the design that they've done. Right? They can't claim that they saw it through, right? But as a product designer, you see things through to the end, right? So that's where the difference comes in. But sometimes I feel like a lot of people out there don't understand. So even though they are only focused, in fact, there are even people that are focused on just UI out there that claim to be UI and UX designers. It's terrible, right? Those people don't last in jobs most times. So you as a person, you have to decide if you want to stick with just UI and UX is fine. Right. But if you want to be able to do more, right, you also need to be ready to learn how to work with project managers, learn how to work with front-end and back-end devs, learn how to do QA. QA is hard. I kid you not. QA is very, very hard. Do you know what it means to test something and test it over and over again? You're fixing something today, you're telling them that there's an error and they should fix it. Devs will fix it, they'll bring it back to you, test that same thing again, find another error and tell them that they should fix it. And it's hard. It can drive somebody nuts, but it's all part of it. And that's why some companies hire QA specialists differently. Like there are some companies that have QA people. Their job is just to, by the way, QA means quality assurance. Thank you for asking. It means quality assurance. So those are the people that test. When you are done, when the development teams are done developing, right? Design have done their work, development has developed. They are the ones that test before sending it to the client. They will test every single functionality. They will go back to look at the requirements of the project. Okay, you know, all these requirements now, we need the user to be able to transfer money. We need the user to be able to create a card. We need the user to be able to, they will go back to that document, read through everything and try to perform those actions with the app. They do that as many times as necessary until everything works properly. That's QA. QA is crazy, right? But that's part of it, right? You need to be ready to do all those things. So once you're open to doing those things, now you start And also those things, quality assurance, those things also require that you learn new things, right? So for instance, I've had to be the project manager and product manager on some projects that I've handled. I'm the one that is running after, okay, devs do this, okay, do this, when to do this, what are the tools that we need to buy? Like, I'm the one. So I have experience in those fields. And the funny thing is they give me an extra hand in the field today, right? Because I mean, I don't just tell clients that, oh, I'm a product designer that is good in UI and UX. I tell them that, oh, I've been a product designer and a no-code engineer for the past couple of years, and I have experience in product management. I have experience in, quality QA testing. I have experience in this, that, prototyping, stuff like that. Now they see because of my list of experience, they see more reason to hire me, right? And that's what being a proper product manager can do for you, right? So at the end of the day, you have to decide what you're comfortable with and what you can handle. Number one, you can learn anything that you want to learn, even though you're just starting. That's not a problem, right? And we're definitely going to give you everything you need. If you have questions about some kind of jargons that are being used, do let us know. That's fine. And then number two, UI and UX is not the same as, product design. Product design goes a little deeper. Product design is UI and UX plus, a little bit of product evangelism and, product management per se, because it's harder. You'll be on the team till they finish, and that can be very, very frustrating. But at the end of the day, it's very, very rewarding because you can claim it. Like, I did this. I was with the devs. I was on their case. Like, I was able to manage them devs until they produce this product and look at it today. Unlike being able to say, oh, I was one that designed the app. I was one that designed that app that they built. Are you seeing the difference? You're not saying you're the one that designed the app that they built. You say that I designed this app and then we built it. I'm part of it. I was part of it. I'm still part of it, right? Okay, so I guess that clears the air on the difference between UI and UX design and product design. So you have to decide on the one that you want. But whichever you choose, you can't just choose UX and you can't just choose UI and UX or product design. All right, does that answer your question, Ibrahim? Are we good?
Yes, sir, that answers my question. So from what you said so far, I would say a product designer is that person who actually works with the whole team, like the developers and everything. Meanwhile, the UI UX designer just designs and leaves it.
Mostly they mostly just design and that's the end of their job. Sometimes companies recruit UI and UX designers. That's why they put it out there. We need a UI and UX designer to help us handle this, is that. They will tell you your role. Your role is to design this. Your role is to be good at interaction, animation, stuff like that. They will tell you those things, right? And then you would also see some ads that say, oh, we are looking for a product designer. And then if you look at the requirements, you see the difference, because they're not just telling you to come and design. They are telling you to be able to collaborate with devs to see your design through to conclusion. The next time you see job roles or job openings, try to look out for those things. There's always a difference. So even for me right now as a product designer, there are companies that I've worked for and they only needed me for the design aspect, the UI and UX. It's fine. I do my job and then I leave, right? And there are companies that they will tell that are looking for a product designer, somebody that would stay, like that would help us stay with us until we, figure out this thing to the end. And of course, you can decide to apply as that. So in whichever case that you decide, it's going to be left to you to choose which one you're more comfortable with.
Okay, thank you very much, sir.
Okay. You're welcome, Chief. Okay, Adekunle, you can unmute yourself.
Thank you so much, sir. Good afternoon.
Once again, not sir. My name is Damilola. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Damilola.
I forgive you.
Basically, I have just two questions, and the first one is, the other time you were doing the wireframing, and my question concerning that is, if I do a wireframe, there is a high probability that someone has done something related to that. And I think that will evoke my design. So if I design and finalize everything, what if what I've designed looks exactly the same way someone has done a particular product before I did my own? Will I be penalized for that, or will that be termed as a
plagiarism,
or taking somebody's
work?
for and taking the glory of somebody else, whereas I didn't see
Mm-hmm.
that before starting.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That is
Is
number
that
one.
okay? Go on.
Number two, I can see you were using a particular software. I think that is Figma.
That's Figma, yes.
Yeah, I know Figma. I don't. There is free part and there is paid part.
Mm-hmm.
Then there is one somebody has mentioned before concerning Adobe, Adobe
Adobe
X.
XD.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now I want to ask something because I've once learned graphic design. There is a
Mm-hmm.
particular software called Illustrator and Adobe Photoshop.
Adobe Illustrator and Photoshop, yeah.
Yes, yes. If you take a look at those things, I think they are actually being sold. But there is a
Mm-hmm.
way people try to download those softwares from some websites without making payment to Adobe itself. And at the same time,
Okay.
you can also send those softwares from your own system to another person's system, bridging
Okay.
what you're supposed to give to Adobe in terms of the payment for the software you are using. Now, this kind of
Okay.
if is someone not committing a crime?
Okay. So let's take the first question first, right? Let me shock you by saying there is a 99.999999999999999999999% chance that when you're coming up with a design on your own from your end, there is someone somewhere in this world that has done something similar. That's something that you cannot escape. Do you get? There's always that chance, right? But the question is, what kind of research did you do, right, before coming up with that concept, right? And two, see, some things are standard and cannot be claimed. The only time somebody can come and tell you to your face that, bro, you stole my design, is when they actually look at your design and then it's like you stole it. Do you get? Obviously, right? Design, when you look at designs these days, they are similar. I mean, you look at websites and then obviously the logos are mostly on the top left part of the screens. The menu links are either at the middle of that nav bar or aligned towards the right. The menu button on mobile is always on the right. Every website has a hero image. Every website has, like, those structures are a standard. So if you have a structure like that today, nobody can come and tell you, oh, you stole my design. Like, if you think about it deeply, most times where you stole my design accusations comes in is when the person actually stole the design. Like, it's a copy and paste. And you will know this from, number one, the way, from the kind of fonts that you're using, from the kind of images that you're using, from the kind of colors that you're using. Some people don't even change structures at all. They just come online, see somebody's design and copy and paste. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that even if you're coming with something I think is unique, trust me, there's a high chance that somebody somewhere has done it. But you just have to be true to yourself, right? So that even if it looks like it belongs to them, you can still stand on your ground and be like, bro, it's not. This is mine. I came up with this on my own. I did not even see you, right? You think about it this way. If you work on something like I'm in my workspace right now, and then I come up with a design, there's probably just off my head, right? I just come up with a design and then I put it out there. And someone is coming to tell me, you stole my design. This looks exactly like my own. They're posting their work. Do you think that I'm going to take down my design? Like, it's not possible. It's mine. I'm not taking it down because I know 101% that I did it myself. It's when I work on something and I know that it's called inspiration. And I know that I took inspiration in quotes from somebody else, and the inspiration and the new design they're completely alike. There's no difference. And that's why when the person comes along, the person says you stole my design, I'll not be like, oh yeah, sorry, and then I'll go and delete it, right? But if a design is yours, you will see no reason. Even if you're a gentle person that does not like violence, you will see no reason to delete it whatsoever because it's yours. Like, and you're convinced that it's yours. Do you get? So don't go around with the mentality that, oh, you can design something and it doesn't exist anywhere. It's close to impossible. It's very, very, very close to impossible that you are designing something and then something like that does not exist anywhere. I'm not saying it's not possible to come up with unique things, but I'm saying that chances that some of the things that you're putting in your design has been done by somebody elsewhere. So the question is, how do you now switch things up in your own works? Right? How do you switch things up? There are people that focus on just designing websites. Maybe in their lifetime, they've designed like 200 websites. Do you want to tell me that out of those 200 websites, there will not be components or things that appear in a couple, things that are repeated? They definitely will be, because when it comes to design, some things are standard, some things have to be there, right? Some things have to be there. So the question is, how do you now make each one unique in each particular project? Do you get? It's all about making things unique. And that's also why it's necessary that when you are building or when you start designing, especially when it's a design for clients and stuff like that, you need to do proper research. Of course, there are a lot of unrealistic designs in Behance and Dribble, like designs that developers will tell you that this is not codable, this is not feasible, right? There are a lot of unrealistic designs like that, but nothing is stopping you from going to design Behance and Dribble and these, awards, one-page love. There are a lot of sites where you can find inspiration and actually see how people are doing theirs, right? There's nothing stopping you from finding inspiration. So what people do, the mistake people make is that I want to design maybe a fintech website, for instance. I go on Dribble, I see one fintech website that looks very, very good, and then I copy paste, I import it into my Figma, and then I start creating my own concept based on that single design. What would happen is that at the end of the day, I'm going to end up with a design that is very, very similar to that one. That if I post it, the person would have every right to come and tell me that it's not yours, it's mine. The best thing that you can do is go online, search for inspiration from diverse fields. You don't have to, the fact that you're designing, and this is something that it took me a while to learn. The fact that you're designing a site for a fintech brand doesn't necessarily mean that you can only get inspiration from existing fintech websites. There are times where I've gotten inspiration for hotel management websites from real estate websites. I've gotten inspiration for e-commerce websites, right, from maybe hospital websites. Like, it doesn't, the fact that you're designing hospital website does not mean that you only need to search for hospital website. Like, broaden your search, broaden your horizon. So imagine that you fed your eyes on maybe 50 designs from different fields. You've seen how they do their hero, how they structure their buttons, the kind of pattern that they use in their design. That's what is called a mood board, right? You bring in different designs that make you think outside the box, that when you see them, you're happy, you're excited. So when you're looking at things like that, you're trying to come up with your own concept, you're going to come up with something that is a blend of everything. And that is where unique design comes in. Unique design does not come from you designing something that you, with inspiration that you pick from one thing. No, it's coming from you designing something from inspiration from multiple sources. Do you get? So that's how it works. And that's what you should try to do at some point, when you're working with clients and then you're getting projects. Don't just go and search for 5 designs or something and leave it. No, right? Look at different sites, different fields. And when you have the time, there's something that I do that has been helping me, right? Whenever I'm free, I just browse through website portfolios, things like awards, for instance. And if you guys need the links to some of these sites that I've been mentioning, I can send it to you. There are sites that showcase badass designs. There are sites that showcase badass design. So whenever I'm chance, I just scroll through sites just to broaden my horizon, to widen my mind, right? So there are some concepts that I've seen that I probably saw last year or last 2 years that I still have an idea of how they look in my head. Like, I still remember them. And I know that there will be a point in a coming project that I would be able to use some of those concepts that I had seen. Right. So that's what happens. So now it means that whenever I want to work on a new project, for instance, I don't have to take too much time to go and start searching for new inspiration again. I already have some faint ideas of some unique things I can do to make my own design different from everything that I've seen. So when you have the time, just practice, search for things, feed your eyes on good designs. The more good designs you see, the easier it will be for you to identify mistakes in your own. Do you get? The easier it will be to identify mistakes in your own, because part of the reason why you design something and then you share with someone, they'll be like, this looks weird, is because you yourself did not notice that mistake. And why did you not notice that mistake? Part of the reason would be that you've seen a lot of designs that are probably doing that same thing, and they were okay with it. The fact that somebody posts their work on Twitter doesn't mean they are very, very experienced. Sometimes people post their work just because they want to showcase their progress. So if you are the person that is always seeing works from somebody who's showcasing their projects, right? Those things that you're feeding your eyes on are going to get stuck in your head that you wouldn't even know when at the end of the day you now start doing some things that those people are doing, and those things are wrong. Now, I'm not saying it's wrong for you to post your designs when you're learning. I'm saying be careful of where you get inspiration from. Do you understand? So that's one of the reasons why these things happen. So once you fed your eyes on, proper bad, like designs from standard companies, standard brands in the world, and you see how they are doing things, by the time you design something and there's a mistake, you'll be able to spot it almost immediately, and then you fix them. Because sometimes these mistakes come in form of, you're stretching a picture. Like a picture is maybe a picture is rectangular, but you are stretching it to become a square, and then it looks distorted, it looks terrible. Or maybe you are using a font size here, but you're not consistent with it. Or maybe you're using a color of a font here, but you're not consistent with it. Or maybe a font is too tiny and people cannot read it. Those are some of the small mistakes that end up making the entire design look terrible. Do you get? So you need to feed your eyes, like feed your eyes. And this is, I'm coming back to what Abraham was saying. You can learn anything. I mean, it's of course, I'm not going to tell you that it's a walk in the park. It's not. Design has its good days and then its bad days, right? And the fact that you're running into design doesn't mean that you get gigs like every day back to back. No, right? But once you've been able to prove yourself as someone who is actually good, right? Someone who actually knows what they are doing, gigs will come for you. Like that's how it works. And this is just to help you understand. I barely advertise works. Like I barely post my works out there. Like I barely do that. I barely do that. And it's not because I don't need gigs and everything. It's because a lot of times I spend my time practicing. So that when I come and I post something, the fact that I've been quiet for a couple of months, that will be justified, because you see the work and you'll be like, oh, this is actually nice. And then I'm off again. I'm not spending all my time there, because I'm the kind of person that likes learning in silence. And for some of you, that might be your case too. Right. So every chance that you get, practice. That's the only advice I have for you right now. It's practice. Practice, feed your eyes on good designs, and keep it at the back of your mind that UX is as important as UI. You're not designing for yourself. You're designing for these people. If they don't like it, if they reject it, imagine that you're designing a product for a startup and that product fails. Do you think the startup will retain you? No, now they'll send you packing. Do you get? So think about it this way. You are helping them to help yourself. If you design something that works for them, you still have a job. You still have something to take home at the end of the day. That's how these things work, right? So if there are any misconceptions like, when you enter design, you start making money immediately, that's a lie. You have to work for it. But once you work, it's going to pay off. 2, you can't just choose UI or UX. It's best to choose both, right? And 3, if you're going to call yourself a product designer, be ready to actually do the work. There's a lot of work that goes into being a full let's do full stack product designer, right? Because you need to do some PM work, some QA work, some testing work, this and that, right? And you need to be careful of where you get your inspirations from. Very, very important. Like very, very important. You notice that since I've been talking, I've been saying awards. That's because awards is a accumulation of that's AWWARDS, awards.com. It's a accumulation of different sites from all around the world, not Nigeria. One thing I've noticed is that a lot of times when I'm designing for Nigerian clients, they don't allow me go crazy with my concepts. They do not allow me go crazy with my concept. I want to do something and I want this to be this to be that. But then they will come back and be like, we don't understand this. Can we do this instead, right? A lot of Nigerian clients will dumb down your work, right? But when you go to sites like awards and you see how people are doing things outside the country, yeah, that's awards, AWWW, like 3 W's, AWWWARDS, like .com. That's the site. So you can check through. Like you'll see sites that might even want to discourage you. I'm not going to lie, because you'll be like, how did this people come up with this concept? How can I ever do this? Trust me, we've all been there. Imposter syndrome is real. Imposter syndrome is real. Trust me. But exactly, that's the link. Imposter syndrome is real. But at the end of the day, right, you need to remind yourself that these people started from somewhere. The fact that they are doing it now doesn't mean that you won't be able to do it. You definitely be able to do it at some point. So places like that should be where you get your inspirations from. Don't go to Twitter for inspiration, I beg of you. Twitter is filled with a lot of people that are still learning. It's not a bad thing to be learning, but you shouldn't be trying to learn from those people. It's okay if you've learned and then you come to Twitter to post, to ask people, oh, what do you think? What do you think? And you know the funny thing? The funny thing is that chances are 90% of the comments that you get on Twitter will tell you that your work is good. because genuinely nobody cares. Nobody wants to make you feel bad. I'm not calling them bad people, but that's the truth, right? So even as you're posting your work on Twitter and everybody's telling you that it's good, it's good, it's good, don't take that as a yardstick to relax. You shouldn't relax, because people they will tell you that it's cool and everything just so that you don't feel bad, right? But the more you look at good sites for inspiration and the more you practice, it will be better for you, right? It will be better for you. Somebody's asking what about Pinterest. I used to use Pinterest when I started, right? But I don't know. I honestly will still stick with this one. Do you know why? The major reason why I will stick with sites like Awards, like One Page Love, like Landing Folio, like Design Milk. I can send you a whole list. That's not a problem. Somebody should just remind me, maybe after this call on Slack, that I should send you a list of where you can get inspirations from, and I'll create a list and send. The reason why I use those sites is that they give you inspiration from sites that are live. It's not just designs. A lot of things you see on Dribble and the rest, they are designs. Most of them are not developed. So in a way, if you keep on doing things like that, you'll be learning from people that are not designing for development. And that's bad, because you yourself will now start designing things that are not for development. And at the end of the day, it will affect you when you're actually designing for development. But sites like this that showcase projects that have been built, that are live, that you can actually visit the link and see how it's mobile responsive, they are better for you. They are better for you. And I'm pretty sure at some point you guys have been worried when you see some sites and you'll be like, how is this going to look on mobile? These sites like this are what can help you, because you see a crazy concept, you'll be like, I'm dying to see how these people will do this mobile view. And then you see the mobile view and then you will learn one or two things that, so if a table looks like this on desktop, this is how I can make it look on mobile, right? They will help you learn a lot. So Pinterest can be cool. Pinterest is cool for visual designs, graphics designs and everything. But when it comes to interfaces, web interfaces, digital interfaces, I would suggest that you stick with actual products, actual sites that showcase existing projects. Now, for the other question that you had, of course, it's a crime to crack or hack existing softwares. I'm not going to advise you to do that, right? But the good news is Figma is free. You don't need to pay for Figma to be able to use it. It's completely free. So whatever it is that you need to design, you can easily do it on Figma. And of course, I used to work with the likes of Photoshops and the rest too. But there are alternatives to things like that. For instance, I know that as designers, we need access to a platform that can help us knock off backgrounds from images easily, because we need that for our work, right? Right. So we know that we need platforms like that, but there are a lot of tools online that you can use. For instance, there's one I used to knock off background from images. I can also send you the link, after now. It's not a problem. It's free. There are other ones that are paid that do more perfect jobs, but I mean, you're paying for them. Why they are free ones? So I can share you access to both, so you can decide if you want to be paying for those tools or. But I barely have to go to Photoshop. I've barely have to go to Photoshop in years. That's the truth. Like, I barely have seen Photoshop in years. I wouldn't know anything I've been doing on Figma. And yeah, somebody is saying they started paying $12. I have no idea. Oh, dev mode. You don't necessarily. I don't think you should really bother about trying to pay because of dev mode for now. I don't think you need to bother about paying because of dev mode for now. I think everything you need to get started is in the free version. And because the assumption is that a lot of us are novices and beginners, don't think about trying to pay for now. Let's focus on the free, let's focus on learning the basics and using the free functionalities to get a hang of it. So if at some point you now get to a point where you start earning big and you have a company that is paying you in dollars and everything, I mean, of course, now how much is $12 per month? As an odogu that you would have been at that point, right? But right now, the free version has everything that you need. What free site or website can we use for portfolios? Okay, I might have to send you links. Some people use, and that's your question, Bukola. Some people use Notion. Some people use Notion to work on their portfolio. I use Webflow for mine, right? But there are other ones too. Some people are using Freema. I think Freema is also paid. Webflow is paid, by the way. I think Freema is also paid. I have no idea. I don't use Freema. But there are free tools that you can use for your portfolio. And if you don't have access to a proper website, you can use Behance. Behance is more than okay. Like Behance is more than okay. Behance is fine. All you have to do is structure your project very well. Behance is fine, right? Behance is very, very fine. I'm coming. We're going to get to you, Prera. Just give me a second. Let me attend to this question. Like you said earlier, UI is how products look. UX is how users feel about the product. When you merge the two, what is it? So that's what we're saying. When you merge the two, that's UI and UX. That's to Abiola. When you consider how your products look and you consider how people feel when they use it, that's UI and UX. That's a whole package on its own. It's enough, right? But if you now want to go further and you want to be considered as a product designer, you now have to start looking into, okay, what does it take to work with devs? Because quite frankly, devs sometimes can frustrate you. I cannot lie. I learned Webflow out of frustration. I will not come and tell you that I learned Webflow because I want to learn new things. Lies. I learned Webflow out of frustration. And I'm not saying all devs are bad, but I was unlucky enough to work with some that frustrated me. I would design things and then they would not be able to implement, properly. And there was even a company I worked with back then that we ended up doing refunds for clients. Clients that when we were designing everything, we were working through the process, they were happy, they were excited, they were looking forward to their product being implemented. But when it came to time for implementation, devs were not doing it properly. And then it turned to fight. And then they were like, refund our money. And we had to refund them money. That's terrible. Like, and for a while, I didn't have works to post because I would design something and it's not live. And I'm never one of those people that is comfortable with just putting designs out there. I want to put live works out there. So I couldn't continue like that because I was not seeing the essence of my work. I was not like, what else can we use to bring sites to life? And that's when I learned I came across Webflow and then I started learning and the rest is history. Do you get? So part of why I'm telling you this is that I'm able to work with devs a little bit more fluently today because with my Webflow knowledge, I'm also able to understand how codes work. Like I know when I see designs today, for instance, I know what is going to be difficult for devs to implement, and I know what is easy for them to implement because I've done a lot of those things myself too. I have an opportunity to build a lot of site with Webflow, so I know what is possible and what is not. So no dev can come and tell me you can't do this. I'll tell you that, no, bros, no, I can do this for you. So right. So that helps me. So for you, for instance, if you're also going to want to become a proper product, so let me mute Imado. If you also want to become a proper product designer, right? You need to understand that's when learning new things also have to come in place. You have to learn a little bit about product management. You have to learn a little bit about, development, really like how developers work. You need to understand them, right? Because when you understand them, you guys will not be able to work together in sync. But if there's still things that you're doing that is not going to work, they will complain. And when they complain and you don't have a solution, or you were not able to think it through, or you don't have a proper defense of why you did what you did, it will not start frustrating you, right? And nobody wants that. So yeah, if you're doing UI and UX, that's UI and UX designing. But if you're doing UI and UX and you're also making yourself available for every other aspect of the product journey, then you can consider yourself a proper product designer. Okay, Prera, let's hear from you. Raising your hand for a while.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, Dami.
Hi. Good afternoon.
Okay, so my question is pretty simple. I just want to know how product designers make their money apart from working with clients.
Okay. Apart from working with clients, it's gigs now. It's gigs. So here's the thing. Most times, a lot of product designers, they don't necessarily cash out from working in companies. And I had to learn this the hard way, right? People don't necessarily cash out from working in companies. Sometimes what having a full-time role in a company does is give you stability, that at the end of the month, there's something coming in. Where the major cash comes in is when you're able to learn gigs, like external gigs, because companies can tell you that, oh, okay, let's go high. Let's say a company sees you and they're like, okay, they want to give you 400K for the month. And then you'll be their, UI and UX designer doing this, that. That's how much you're earning every 31 days. Okay, let's say every 28 days, because every month has 28 days. That's what you're earning every 28 days. But then you come across a gig that will tell you that, what you're going to give you. When you've gotten to that point and you're that good, they might tell you, we're going to give you like maybe 800K, but we need you to be able to handle this project for us in 4 weeks. Do you get? Right? So at the end of the day, I mean, your salary is good. It's okay. But the gigs are the ones bankrolling you. They're the ones buying your MacBook for you, buying your Air Max, stuff like that. So the reason why people first strive to get full-time roles is that you need experience in order to be able to build trust. As a freelancer, nobody will give you, let me not say nobody, it will be hard for you to get companies that will pay you big money if they've not seen that you've been committed to 1 or 2 companies in the past, which is why product designers, myself included, are also maintaining some roles in some companies. It's not like we are very, very comfortable that, oh, we love this place. I mean, there are some that I love because I have like there are multiple ones. There are some that I love and there are some that I want to leave, but let me not leave yet because I'm looking at my CV, right? I want my CV to start reading, oh, 3 years experience in this. I mean, 2 years of 2 years. I spent 2 years in this company, spent 3 years in this company. That's the kind of distance I want in my CV. I don't want, oh, he spent 3 months here, spent 1 month here. Like, that's terrible. Nobody will hire you if your CV looks like that. So sometimes we stay in jobs because we want to build that form of respect. Like, we want to have that background that makes people feel safe and confident enough in our abilities. But the truth is, the main cash is in gigs. But of course, before you get the gigs, you have to have full-time jobs that stabilize you, because gigs don't come every day. And that's the sad truth. Nobody's like, if anybody's telling you that, oh, as a product designer, you'll be getting gigs every day, it's a lie. Gigs don't come every day. Right. So at the end of the day, you have to work towards the gigs. You have to build up on your skills. Sometimes you have to advertise yourself. I don't know how to do that. I have not been doing that. I don't want to be pushed to doing that, but sometimes it's necessary for some people to advertise themselves, right? So if that's what you need to do, if you are saying that that's what you need to do, it's fine. By the end of the day, it's not just the companies. Companies will only pay you as much as they can, but gigs have the capacity to pay you 2 times, 3 times the amount your company is paying you in a month. There are even times where I've done, I think there is a time where I've done a 600K project in a weekend. I kid you not. Like, it was that quick. But of course, I'm not going to start there and tell you that, oh, this kind of money come every time. It's a lie. It doesn't, right? But they come sometime. And then, of course, you'll be able to appreciate them when you are able to use them for something substantial, when you have a stable job somewhere that's also, giving you money at the end of the month. Yeah, so that's how we make money, Chief. It's gigs. We strive to get full-time roles in companies and then gigs. And also a fast way to get it is landing a remote job. So if you land a remote job with a foreign company, for instance, you wouldn't even have to worry about gigs, honestly, because I mean, I don't have to tell you about the dollar to naira exchange. It's crazy. All right. So even if they're paying you $2,500, which is like something that they can pay you, I mean, to them, if you look at job adverts from foreign companies on LinkedIn, you'll be seeing stuff like $175,000 in a year. If you do the maths, that's how many $1,000 in a month? That's a lot of money. So if the company is even paying 2,500, so it's small, but by the time you convert it to naira, it's not. So if you're earning something like that, you probably wouldn't even need to worry about gigs, because that's like your monthly take home, right? So yeah, if you can land a foreign job, you're fine. If you can't land a foreign job, you can get a local one and try as much as possible to not get fired. I mean, do your job and wow them with your delivery. But then you also have to now start, getting gigs so that you can be fine. So yeah, that's how we roll. It's those are the 3 steps.
All right,
There's
thank you,
mostly
sir.
no time there's mostly no time to do anything else. But if you have time to do other things, then you can try doing other things. But outside those are the 3 steps that we take. Sorry. There's a question here that says, to do our tasks on the LMS, I hope using these resources we have, it's yes, I've literally given you expo for. By the way, you guys are going to get another assignment. The initial assignment is obviously too simple, because a lot of you submitted without wasting time. So obviously it was too simple. So you guys are going to get another assignment. But I mean, you still have till Friday to submit this initial one, right? The next one you probably have to, I'll drop it maybe like tomorrow, and you probably have to submit that on Saturday. But yes, everything you need to answer your questions, to answer the questions in the assignment we've talked about. I've told you how to identify UI and UX problems. I've told you any problem that has to do with what they are saying, like the aesthetics, how the product looks, that's a UI problem. Anything that has to do with how the product feels. Or maybe somebody is using the app and they start feeling confused and they start feeling sad, they start feeling depressed, they don't know where to go, they don't know what to do. Of course, that's a UX problem. That's another expo right there. So please, you guys are fine when it comes to the assignments. Please, you guys who are a bit advanced are just rushing us. Let's go with the flow. It's the basic. Oh, okay. We're having some complaints. Please, is it necessary to know how to code as well, most especially? Okay, this is a very, very good question. Please, Lidogo, we are going to get to you in a bit. Just hold on a second. Now, I'm not going to try to force every single one of you to learn how to code. It's not like, oh, if you don't know how to code, you can't be a good designer. No. But if you know how to code, or if you know some basics, not necessarily, I don't know how to code per se, I just know some basics. So if you know some basic about coding, it will make you a better designer. Like I said, part of the reasons why I can stand in front of a dev, whether front-end or back-end, and tell them that, and respond to them when they tell me that something is not feasible, and respond to them that, okay, this thing is feasible. I've done it. I can show you how to do it. This is how you can do it. Like, part of the reason I can do that is because I understand how code works to an extent. Not a lot, but I know the basics. Do you get? So knowing a little bit about coding will save you from frustration. And I've talked about this before. In a way, it's going to be very, very hard for you to escape frustration in this career role, because sometimes devs will not implement your works how you want, right? So it's not a starting requirement. Right now, you don't need to worry about coding at all, or learning about coding. You don't need to worry about it at all. Your focus right now should be understanding the basics of design, UI and UX together, and then being able to actually solve problems with your design, create products that people see, they like, and then they experience and feel good about. Once you've got to that point where you have your UI and UX aspects in the bag, then you cannot be like, you know what can I do to advance myself a little bit more? It's going to be left to you to decide if you want to do it or not. Funny enough, there are people that their focus is just websites. There are people like that. They are designers, UI and UX designers, but they focus on just websites. They don't design anything else. They don't do mobile apps. They don't mess with things like that. It's just design. While there are some that are mobile app designers, they don't mess with anything website. There are some that even focus on just landing pages. So landing pages are one-page sites that people mostly use to advertise products, right? Or one-page sites are things like people's portfolios. Like I don't know if you've come across portfolio websites of other designers. It's mostly used to be a one-page site. Those are what landing pages are like, just one-page sites. Some designers focus on that, and that's how they make their money. They advertise themselves as landing page designers, and people only reach out to them when they have landing page problems, and then they do those works and they go, right? So at the end of the day, you are going to have to determine where you are going to, specialize on. But whether it's landing page, whether it's website, whether it's mobile apps, whether it's web apps, the bases are still the same. The UI and UX part of it has to be top notch. All right. So am I missing anything else? Sorry, hold on. When you guys say gigs, where can we get that? What are the platforms? Okay, gigs are like okay, they are just projects, really. You can call them projects. So if, for instance, I have a couple of developer friends. And then whenever they need help with the design, maybe they're working on a new product, or a company hires them and then they're looking for a designer, they can just boss me and be like, hey, Dami, how far now? My company needs a product designer. Are you available? Right? I'm like, okay, tell me the details of the product. They will not be like, oh, okay, it's a 3-month contract product. They are going to pay you something amount monthly, or maybe XYZ amount for the entire duration of the project. And then you'll be expected to do this, that. So gigs are short-term contract. They are short-term projects. That's what gigs are. Something that you can do in a weekend, in 1 week, in 2 weeks, in 4 weeks. Unlike full-time jobs that you are doing them sometimes maybe 2 years, and definitely you don't know, right? So that's what gigs are. They are short-term, but they give you some type of money that you probably wouldn't get from your current job at that time frame. So yeah, where you can get them, there are sites that upload. So there are freelancing sites that you can. I don't want you to get carried away with that for now, really. I don't want you to get carried away with that for now. Don't worry about gigs. They will come. right? They are going to come. Let's focus on the basics, right? UI and UX. So questions that we're answering right now should really be focused around those ones because they are the most important things. Once you have the basics, every other thing will follow. Like all those things that you're looking for. Once you provide the value, people will find you. That's the thing. But you have to be at that point where you have the capacity to provide value first. And how can you provide value? By designing products that work, products that look good and feel good. So yeah, no more geek stuff. Thank you. Which aspect of programming can you suggest for designers? Like I said, let's not get carried away. Let's not get carried away. Please leave programming. When we get to that point, probably at the end of this course, on the last week, we can gist, I can even tell some personal experiences and stuff like that has helped me. But those are not the focus right now. Our questions should be on, basics understanding so that we can make progress and get more clarity. All right, Ledogo Tina, you can go on and unmute yourself. Hello, do you still have a question? Your answer, help. Ledogo Tina. Okay. All right. I'm guessing the person is not available. Who else has a question? Are we good? Okay. Somebody said, what's the difference?
Sorry, so my hand is up.
Yeah, I was calling you. You were not responding.
Oh, my name is OJS.
Oh, sorry. I was counting Ledogo. Sorry, my mistake. It's you I was trying to call.
All right. Good afternoon, Mr. Damilola.
I would pounce on you. My name is not Mr. Damilola. My name is Damilola, please.
Damilola, okay.
Thank you.
Damilola.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, you too. Okay, so my question is around the product design aspect, because I think the fellow that actually asks that question is like he's in my mind, like he knows what I'm thinking about. But then because I've read some few articles on that, and we are still trying to get a balance. But then the way you answered it, I think it really helped and give it total, give clarity on that. But here is my own what I want to ask. It's just like a personal experience. So in recent time, I decided to take an internship under an organization as a general intern with the hope of just learning how administrative things or something like that works. But it was a remote stuff and with no pay, of course, no pay like a remote stuff. But down the line, I actually completed the internship last month, and they are now giving us the privilege if we want to transit into being their volunteer workers, which still payment will not be involved. Will not be involved. Okay. So, because of my love for product design, I used to be a fashion designer, but then before I began my fashion designing part, I used to be this type that always loved tech around the early 2000s. Whenever I had the opportunities to actually learn tech, even though I tried on few occasions, learning tech and creative work, bringing both together to create something out, like something innovative. And as of then, there was nothing like UX, UI, or product design, not like that, but I know there is something like project management. So in recent times, it seems like the whole thing started looking like, okay, aligning. So when these people, so forward back to the recent time, when these people now give the opportunity to transit, so deep down me, it's like, okay, I can use this opportunity to move into what I actually want, which is they asked me what did I want. Then I told them the role like product coordinator. But the truth here is that I don't have experience in that field. And late last year, I decided I took a course on UX UI, but I actually struggled based on maybe the pattern in which the model in which the instructor teaches. I struggle with it. And having some other challenges, so I struggled with it. I just fulfill righteousness to complete the class, but couldn't really catch the essence of me being there. But I just stayed there like, okay, let me just take it as an introductory, something like just I had an eye opener. So I completed the class. But before I ended that, this opportunity came. So I just saw this as an opportunity. Okay, let me use this to just start register for this so I can build on that, like help me get a better knowledge, like better understanding of so many things, like almost 100% things that I missed. So now, moving into this product design now, I don't have experience of it. I don't have any experience. I'm a product coordinator role, which is an entry level. I don't have any experience of. And UI UX on the other part, I know it's a very valuable skills that also helps you being a product designer or product coordinator. Yeah, product coordinator. So here's my question. Since I'm having this opportunity before me, what do you advise? Because it's like a zero experience in product design. And you know, we all know how Nigeria is now. You're doing something with no people, then I'm ready to take that part. Even if it's for like 6 or 9 months, I'm ready to take that part. It's just like there must be a sacrifice, there must be a laying down. So I don't mind that. But the most important thing is 6 to 9 month time. I can really get value for what I'm doing. I can understand this thing, I can learn this thing and know this thing, then move to the next phase of life. Because I consider myself as someone who had a bit delay in getting some certain thing done to some, I mean, trying to analyze things too much, trying to figure things out, and that really causes a whole lot of problems. Yeah, but then I've decided now to take that step and give it about 9 months, 6 months, 1 year. I mean, training.
I feel you.
Why I move for the is to really know this thing very well, and also to know, I mean, I will appreciate it if the way the system of teaching will really like make it easier for every student to really know why they are here and they're able to learn and know what
I feel you.
they are. Yeah. So
I feel you.
what thought on this? Should I take this role with zero experience and not even good at US UI? I mean, for now, let me say I don't even know it for now. So that is my question.
It's
Thank you, sir.
all right. Okay.
Sorry for
So
the sir.
hello.
Okay,
All right.
I'm here.
Okay. So it's quite noble. It's quite noble that you've decided to. And by the way, this is for everybody who is a novice, who's trying to figure things out on this call. It's understandable if you are able to. I mean, it's noble and it's cool. It's very, very good if you're able to carve out maybe 3 to 6 to 9, as many months as you can, to double down to learn something, right? But I wouldn't really advise you to up on a job, right, that you have complete zero experience on, unless they are telling you that it's still going to be a learning position where they're going to be teaching you. You mentioned the fact that you've done the internship and now they're offering you retainership. If you've not gotten to understand things in the internship phase and then they are telling you that you can start working and then you hop on it, I think that's going to come back to bite you in the leg, right? So I would advise for everybody here, really, as long as you really genuinely want to learn or want to follow this career path, if you can dedicate 3 months, 3 months of intensive learning is enough for you to learn the basics. I'm not saying it's enough for you to become an experienced UI and UX designer. I'm saying it's enough for you to learn the basics. You would understand it if you're intentional about it. And then from there, you can carry on to, in fact, once you've understood the basics, you can now enter some positions because you know, like it's just like school. Sometimes when we struggle with things like physics, chemistry, further maths, at the end of the day, people will tell you that all you have to understand are the formulas and the basics. Even though sometimes I would argue that chemistry, even though you know the basics, it will still slap you. But but at the end of the day, when it comes to design, it's the basics, right? So if you can understand the basic, then you can take on jobs that are entry-level jobs, to be specific. entry-level jobs. Don't go and hop into a job role that is expecting you to deliver in the name of, oh, I deserve to be given a chance to practice. It's not good. It's not even good for you, right? As a person, you need to learn first, right? And I've been saying this since we started this call. There is no need to worry about, oh, will I learn this? Will I be able to learn that? We are here for you. Like, you'll notice that I've been trying as much as possible to answer all the questions everyone has, because I want you to understand that we are here. We're not here to rush through this. No, we want you to be able to grasp the basic at the end of this course, so that you can continue, you can keep learning, you can keep building on it, by yourself on your own terms, wherever you are, right? So there's nothing to worry about, but I would advise you to take your time to learn before jumping into any role. Even though I don't think that the product coordinator is, going to be UX UI per se, but I'm just giving this as a general advice to everyone out there. Unless a job role tells you, oh, we are training people that are going to be working with us, like maybe an internship or maybe a trained role or something like that. If they tell you that they are training you, fine, you can sign up and then they can train you and everyone can. But if they are not training you and they're expecting you to come and work and you have zero knowledge, please, that's a no-no. Yeah, but 3 months, 6 months, 3 months is not more than enough for you to learn basics. An additional 6 months is enough for you to have been able to start building things, like designing things that you can be proud of, right? Okay, I hope that helps you. And by the way, if you have any more questions, so that we don't take the time of a lot of the other people here, you can ask me personally, like, and then I would ask you. Okay, iPhone is bombarding us with the same question multiple times. Please, do we need to learn data structure and algorithm, dealing with stress and the rest, time management and self-management, domain hosting and documentation? Okay, so data structure and algorithm, not necessarily, right? Not necessarily. I wouldn't say you need that. Dealing with stress and rest, this is one of the general courses, if I'm right. It's just something to help you learn how to deal with things that come with the job. Because be it product design, be it product design, be it front end, be it back end, every single one of these careers come with a lot of stress. I've talked about frustrations a couple of times, like during this call. There would definitely be a time where you're frustrated, whether it's because of a dev or because of a team member or because of a client. Like, there is definitely going to be times where you're frustrated. The question is, when these frustrations come, how do you undo them? Right? So if you have the time, really, I would suggest that you enroll for the dealing with stress and rest course. And time management and self-management is also important. I think it will help you, really. I think it will help you to understand how to manage time, because one mistake we creatives fall in, and this is from a personal experience. When a project, I almost said gig. When a project comes in today, right, we assess it. We're like, oh, okay, this is a website, yada, yada, yada. I should be able to do this in a couple of maybe weeks. And let's say the client gave us 6 weeks for the project. And we're like, oh, I should actually be able to finish this in 3. But then we don't start. We leave it and we're working on another thing. Week 1 goes by, week 2 goes by, week 3 goes by, week 4, in the middle of week 4, that's when it's going to click that, oh wow, there's a project I have to work on, I've not started. And then the frenzy starts. So a project that you're supposed to have 6 weeks to handle, you're trying to do it in 2.5. And what happens is that there's now stress. You're running to fix. Funny enough, the fact that you have 2.5 weeks to work on a 6 weeks project does not stop you from having other things to deal with, maybe from your current company and all that. So it now becomes problematic. There's stress. You're tired. You're frustrated. You're angry. And at the end of the day, so maybe the client will now have some comments or feedback, like, or spots or mistakes that on a normal day you probably would not have made. Right? So those things will even like add pile on to the frustration and get you very, very angry. So if you feel like you know how to manage your time completely and you don't need to register for this course, that's fine. But time management is very, very important in our career, because it's very, very easy to lose track of time. As you start, some of you will discover that you enjoy designing so much that you're going to spend hours like staring at your screen and designing. I have a couple of friends that do design sprints from morning till night. They are just on their screen with a couple of friends and then they are designing. These things happen. You can get carried away like that. So it's very, very easy for you to lose track of time, especially if you are designing something that you enjoy. But the question is it every project that the client brings to you that you're going to enjoy? Answer is no. There's some projects I just have to do because, of course, I mean, the pay is good. And of course, you can do it. You have the experience to do it. So you're not trying to scam them, right? So it's very, very necessary that you need to know how to manage your time, allocate proper times to proper projects. You don't have to allocate times to projects properly. You don't have to say, oh, I'll do a marathon and finish everything in 3 weeks. No, you can spread it out. Week 1, I'll start the sketching, I'll start the research, I'll just do this for a couple of hours and I'll rest. Week 2, I'll do this, ask a couple of people questions, blah, 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 put a wireframe together, rest. Week 3, I'll build more on the wireframe, maybe do the low fidelity aspect, boom. Week 4, okay, fine. We've already gotten the low fidelity aspect out of it. Everybody likes it. Now let me start building on it. Like week 5, funny enough, you might have been done with everything, and then week 6, you just be chill. And the fact that you spread it also gives you more time to work on the other things that you might have on your plate. So time management is also very, very important. Domain hosting and documentation, that's not your concern. You don't have to worry about that. That's mostly development. That's mostly development. You don't have to worry about that. But yeah, but when it comes to dealing with stress, time management, self-management, I think those are important classes that you should try to sign up for if you have the bandwidth to accommodate them. Does that answer your question, iPhone? You can just type yes if it does so that we can move on. Okay, while speaking, you made mention of Webflow. Okay, like I said, I am not going to touch anything that is outside the scope of a beginner's learning curve, right? So if you want to learn about Webflow and stuff like that, we can always talk about that at the end of the program. I wouldn't advise you to learn 2 things at the same time. All right, so if you want to learn more about me saying I use no-code tools, I'm more than excited to talk about it. But let's focus on everything you need in your journey as beginners first. Okay, what's the difference between mockup and hi-fi? All right, high fidelity design is basically the design that an high fidelity design is a completed UI design. Do you get? They are using your actual colors, your actual fonts. Let me see if I can grab you. Let me see if I can show you an example really quickly. I don't know if I still have this project open, but it's one of the ones I was working on not too long ago. Okay, I think I closed it already. But basically, when you see, can I open it? Okay, I probably should be able to open it. All right. Let me share my screen and show you. What is it? All right, so basically, a design that no longer has mockups. Like you can see that everything is structured, everything is set. These are not mockups, these are actual content, actual headings, like actual settings. Everything is completed here. This is an high fidelity design. But compared to what I was telling you earlier, like this, here's a wireframe, then wireframes that have some kind of colors that didn't have actual text, they are your lo-fi. Like they are your low fidelity designs. Like they are not completely there yet, but they are a little bit easier to understand than the ones that don't have any form of coloring or any form of design elements, right? And then once you figure this one out, right, you can now start. That's when you will now start your hi-fi. The hi-fi is the major design aspect where instead of this, you now have an actual picture here. Let's just do Shutterstock really quickly. Oh, on Splash rather. Right. And choose, let's say, a smiling man or abstract. All right. And boom. Sorry, give it some time. Okay. So this is the difference, right? This is a wireframe. Just boxes are not brought together to map out the flow of the product. The only time a wireframe will be completely done would be when we have figured out the flow that works best for the users, and then we are convinced that this is what would work. And then we'll go from this to this, which is a low fidelity design, where instead of using just boxes to identify things, we now try to describe what these elements are so they are easier to comprehend. So instead of putting just a box here, I have a box with a gray color, and then I wrote logo, so that anybody that sees this will know that, oh, this is actually a logo. I put an icon of an image here, so that anybody that sees this will know that, oh, this is actually supposed to be an image. This is a low file. An example of the I file would be that instead of using an icon to signify that this is an image, I'm going to import an actual image here, right? I'm going to use the actual colors, the actual font, the actual text, and everything is going to be completed just like we have it here, right? So that's the difference between a wireframe, a low file, and a high file. I hope that answers your question. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now so I can see what comments are being shared, because I'm not seeing any comments right now. Okay. All right. All right, I learned about some UX career paths like interaction design, user researcher, UX writer, etc. I wanted to know if it's possible to specialize based on. Yes, you can. Do you get? You can. There are companies that, like I said, there are companies that have teams. You can't want to be on a team like Netflix or Spotify, for instance, right? And then they won't have different teams for different things, right? They have a UX team, they have a UI team, they definitely have these things. They have the product managers. You don't have to do, one person doesn't have to do everything. That's when it comes to big companies, right? But the point is that you have to start from somewhere, right? You have to start from somewhere. I want to assume that a lot of the names I'm seeing here are probably in Nigeria or in Africa, right? So you understand that access to tech or access to roles might not be as easy to come by as when you're outside the country, right? Maybe in the US, for instance, you can decide that, oh, I'm just starting, but I want to do UX research alone, and then I want to take a course, maybe an Udemy course on UX research, and then I will search for an internship in a company that's just going to be offering me a UX research role, and then I will run with it. It's easier to achieve things like that in those kinds of companies, but this is Nigeria. This is Nigeria. You need to be realistic. How many companies will hire you just because you say you're a UX researcher? No, these companies are looking for people that can do 50 million things for the price of one. And as sad, as ridiculous as that sounds, it's true. So what you need to do is start from somewhere, build yourself to a point whereby you have some experience under your belt. And then at that point, you can now decide that, you know what, I want to go more to look for UX research role. Like, in fact, there are some designers that only design motion, interaction. That's what they do. We have animators. That's what they do. Animators design animations. That's they don't just they don't just whip it up. They design it. They still like design, right? But that's what they did. They design animation, they design interaction. But the question is, how many of these opportunities are available in the country? How many of these opportunities are accessible to you? Do you understand? That's where the advice of knowing the fundamentals of design comes in. Because even if you want to focus on one at some point in your career, you need to start from somewhere. You need to have had some experiences. You need to have worked on a couple of things, so that at the end of the day, if you now decide that, oh, okay, let's move on to something else, number one, it will still be possible for you to have maybe a stable job that's still giving you money. Do you get? Like, there's nothing wrong in you still having a stable job that's giving you money, but at this point, you're not looking for gigs, you're not looking for extra cash. You're just learning, or you're just looking for opportunities that will allow you to do your UX research role and rest in peace. All right. So it's possible, but you have to be realistic on, the position that you're in, the country that you're in, and how things are going to work well for you. Right. So it's possible to specialize. It's very, very possible to specialize. It's just the opportunities. But if you're out of if you're out of Nigeria, and then, you're in the UK, US, Germany, and stuff like that, these opportunities are easier to combine. Like, they even put it out there, UX researcher alone, something amount monthly, yearly, like they advertise it. But if you're in Nigeria and you're trying to land a job, you would rarely see companies that tell you that they're looking for just UX researcher. It's always going to be UX and UI. It's always going to be product. It's always, sometimes they even look for product designer that also codes. These companies can be ridiculous, but just focus on learning the basics and getting better. You can always advance at some point in your career. All right, I hope that answered the question. Yes, I would have assignments for you, but I won't drop it now. I'll drop that assignment tomorrow. So the first assignment that is on your LMS currently, please remember that you're expected to submit that before, you're expected to submit that by Friday, right? And for this second one, I'm going to be dropping tomorrow. You are going to be submitting it on Saturday. So yeah, that's that about that. Does anybody else have any other question? We've used over 2 hours. I do. Okay, you can unmute yourself and say something. iPhone, I already answered your question. You can drop your hand.
Good afternoon, Dami. Thank you very much. My
Hi, good
question
afternoon.
is regarding the screen you just shared, where you showed
Okay.
a form of design. And I want to ask that, do we have to come up with the catchphrases, the contents that are going to be in, like things like the catchphrases, the welcome part, the written contents, yes, of the product? Do we have to come up with that, or we are just to focus on the typography, the hierarchy, and the likes, or we have to also create those catchphrases? That's my question.
Okay. Personally, I would say it helps if you know how to write. They are called UX copy, by the way. You know, the copy that goes in your design are called UX copy. Personally, I would advise that if you can, right, if you can, it's not even if you can, I would advise that you should know how to come up with, you know, UX copy that works. And the reason is that your copy also is also part of your experience. How many of you know about this, about Abeg app as when it started back then? The name of the app was called Abeg. Just a show of hands or type in the chat if you know Abeg when it started. Exactly. You saw the way the messaging was then when they were saying like, oh, tap your guy, urgent 2K. You know, they were literally using words that people were already resonating with. They were saying slangs that people already use. So it was easy for people to adopt them. Like, oh, Apa now, send me 2K with my bag. Like, it was easy, right? That's where UX copy comes into place. Because imagine that they just did, and the design was quite nice also. I mean, I love everything about that you know, campaign back then. Imagine that they just made the app and the app was okay, and they're like, they were now saying things like, they're using English now. If you need to collect money from your friends, be sure to use our app. Click on this, click on that. When you click on this, you get a prompt that does this. Use this prompt to. That's too much English, man. It's too much English. You're trying to deal with people that consider themselves as G's. Like, I beg app is supposed to be used between friends. Like, you know, you're my friend, we're very, very close. Alpha, now I need a just okay, send to my Abeg app. Nobody wants to speak English using Abeg. They want to speak pidgin. That's how it works. And that was why Abeg was widely adopted then, because the people behind the product understood that they were targeting a particular market, and they understood the kind of language that this market spoke. Do you understand? So it's easy for them to be like, you know what? Instead of saying use Abeg to request money from your friends, then I started saying things like urgent 2K, use Abeg. You won't get urgent 2K. Do you understand? They were using words that people resonated with to improve the experience. And that's where UX copy comes in, right? So you need to be able to decide what works in your design. Sometimes designers try to run away from this and they're like, oh no, the company should provide. I'm not going to lie to you. There are projects where the company will provide it. They'll provide the copy. In fact, I ask my clients when they reach out that, okay, who's going to provide a copy? I ask them, and then they're like, oh, we have somebody that will do that. It's a relief for me. It's fine, right? But there are companies that they have no provision for that in-house. Like, they're expecting you to help them with everything. The only thing you cannot do at that point is tell them to provide somebody that you can work with so that you guys can review the copy together, but you have to come up with things. It's all part of UX. You won't have to use this particular skill every time, because sometimes the company will provide somebody for you, but sometimes you would need to. So it makes sense. It makes sense for you to know how to do it, know what to say, know what language fits the app. Are you talking to kids? Are you talking to adults? Are you talking to millennials? Are you talking to Gen Zs? Are you talking to to people from the 1920s? Right? So you need to understand. I mean, you can't be building a product for Gen Zs and then you're not using their catchphrases. You're talking like a millennial. I mean, who are you? What are you doing? It's not going to work. But if you're building a product for Gen Zs, you have to use Gen Z language. If you're building a product for millennials, you have to use millennial language. And that's where your expertise will also come in. You need to know exactly how to communicate with them. And part of it is actually writing these things. All right. But you don't have to do it alone. You never have to do it alone. You always need somebody from the company to also come in so that as you write, you guys can review. And even if somebody from the company is even providing like copy for you, you also still have to work with them and advise them. If they are talking to robotic, you'll be like, sir, if we say this here, it's gonna make it's gonna make the product look robotic. Why not just switch to this instead? It's more user-friendly, it's more this. I mean, when people hear you talk and they see that when people hear you talk, they're able to decipher if you know what you're saying or not. That's the fact. Right. And the probability of whether or not they will listen to you depends on the confidence with which you're speaking. Which is why sometimes it's possible for someone to be saying something that does not make sense, but people are still listening because of how they are saying it. So you need to learn that too, right? Learn to explain your thought process to the clients, help them understand that you're doing what you're trying to do, what works for them, and make them see reasons to trust you. All right. So to answer your question, yes, I think it's necessary. I will also talk about it, UX copy and the rest along the line in your journey. But yeah, I hope that answers your question. Okay, somebody is asking, are we going to be given a task? See, when I said the assignment that we're giving people is too simple, some of you thought I was joking. People are trying to jump to designing. Okay, so at some point, you're definitely going to be designing. Yes, you're going to be designing stuff, but not now. That's going to be later on. If you're going to be doing anything with Figma now, I mean, Fola Jomi, my fellow tutor, is going to be taking you on intro to Figma next week. So she's going to be walking you through the interface, the tools, how to do some basic things. And she probably give you a task to do something very, very simple. It's not going to be crazy, so you don't have to be scared, right? She's definitely going to give you a task based on what she has taught you. The same thing I've done with this particular one. So yeah, we'll start gradually. Like start gradually. Then as you advance, the tasks are going to be advancing gradually. Because like we said, we understand that a lot of us are beginners, so we cannot be doing things that please, I'm a newbie. No assignment is okay. So we cannot be doing things that are going to be difficult for everyone to undo. Yeah, Ade Wambe. I don't know if I'm pronouncing your name well. You can drop your hands if you don't have any other question. Okay, we spent a lot of time on this call. I pity the people that would have to listen to this recording. What else? Are we good? Do we have any more questions? Can we wrap up this session? And please, you can type your responses in the chat so I know you're following me. Are we good? Any other questions? Awesome. So thank you very much. Thank you very much. I really look forward to the kind of designs that you're going to be sharing out in the next couple of weeks. Because I mean the journey is going to be, I'm not promising that it's going to be easy, but I promise you that it's going to be fun. Like it's going to be, fun, It's going to be fun. So if you have any questions, so how it works is that every tutor that is going to take you on particular courses is ready to take those courses. So if you have questions on any particular topic that was taken by a tutor, you can ask them, right? And in case you drop questions that you're not getting responses on time, you can ask me, or you can tag me and I can help you reach out to them and get them to answer. Or if need be, maybe answer those questions myself. But we are always here for you, right? We're here for you, and we look forward to you excelling in this newfound career path. All right, I can't wait to see everybody face. All right, thank you very much for your time. We're going to be ending this session now. Please expect your assignment version 2 by tomorrow. I know some people are not going to be happy about that, but yeah, I expect your second assignment tomorrow. It was really, really nice having this session with you. Bye.